Okay, so we are going to be talking about the AP History document-based question 2020 rubric. So some things have changed. Instead of 7 documents, you will have 5 documents, and you really only have to discuss 4 documents to get the full points. So the first thing that I want to discuss with you, this has not changed. The thesis will respond to the prompt with a historically defensible thesis that establishes a line of reasoning. You know how to write these types of thesis statements. It basically just says, this is how I'm answering the question, and this is how I will go about answering it. You have done this 1,000 times with your thesis statements. And the analogy that I always give you is, I love spaghetti because of the cheese, the sauce, and the noodles. And so you just kind of have to replace that with your established line of reasoning. The other thing, now that is worth 1 point. That is basically 1/10 of your AP world grade. Next is contextualization. This is where you describe the broader historical context relevant to the prompt. What does that mean? You want to look at the prompt and figure out what was happening before that. What was going on that enabled this event or this historical development to happen? And if you remember in class, we had a question about the Enlightenment. So I went through basically the 100 years before the before the 1700s, as the Enlightenment was just coming about. So basically about 100 or so years, 50 years, to kind of lay the groundwork for the contextualization of where you're going to be concentrating. Then evidence, a total of 3 points. Now all of these will add up, so 1 point, 2 points, 3 points. So if you use the content prompt, you get 1 point. Good for you. If you support your argument in response to the prompt using evidence from 2 documents, you get 2 points. The difference between use and support is when you're just using is basically just kind of summarizing the documents, whereas support is where you actually can marry your argument to the document that you are using. So does the document that you are using supporting, or are you just simply describing the document? Now you get 2 points for supporting your argument using 2 documents. You get all 3 of the points for supporting your argument in response to the prompt using 4 documents. And this is why I'm recommending that you use 4 documents. The next part, so let's say we've done all of this. I just want to reiterate here. Let's say we have a decent enough thesis that responds to the prompt and establishes a line of reasoning. Let's say we have decent contextualization. And let's say that we are using the prompt, we are supporting our argument using at least 4 documents. We now have 5 of the 10 points that we need. Now then, we want to go to evidence beyond the documents. It uses at least one additional piece of specific historical evidence that goes beyond the documents. What does that mean? This is where you have to activate your prior knowledge. And can you use a second additional piece? Can you bring up something else relevant that helps support your argument? and that gets you to about 7 of the 10 points. The analysis and the reasoning. This is where you explain how and why the document's historical context or audience or point of view or purpose is relevant to the argument. This is where you want to look at who wrote the argument or who wrote the document and figure out and weave that into your argument as to how that person's experience is relevant to your argument. If it's the historian, look at the year when they are writing and figure out maybe how that's relevant to your argument. If it's a primary document, look at what they're trying to do. In the case of the King of Congo to the King of Portugal, it was rather, you can weave that in there when you discuss, we look at empire building and we see how far reaching it is and how it's forcing, people in higher positions to have to acquiesce to somebody in a larger position, but who is so far away. If you can do that for at least 2 documents, you now have at least 9 of the 10 points. And then finally, we look at complexity. Demonstrates a complex understanding of the historical development that is the focus of the prompt, using evidence to corroborate, qualify, or modify an argument that addresses the prompt. So this you don't have too much control over unless you are writing a really complex DBQ, or if you have a very good understanding of the historical development that is the focus of the prompt. Which is why I ask you to be aware or to be familiar with those historical developments. If you are able to discuss those, you get 1 extra point, which would be a total of 10 points. I don't know at this point, and I don't even think that AP knows. I don't think that anybody knows exactly what is going to be a passing grade. It could be 10 out of 10. It could be 9 out of 10. It could even be 5 out of 10. But suffice it to say, you want to get the maximum points possible. Some other things that you want to know is you will have 45 minutes to write your response. You can use any device, a phone, a tablet, a laptop, a PC, or a Mac. And you could type or write and upload your response. I don't know quite how that's going to work, so we'll take that day by day. I thank you very much. I hope this was informative, and obviously if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me through Teams or Remind.